Ashley Bell, I hope that 30 pieces of silver that the Republican National Committee is paying you is worth it. Because after this presidential race is over, you are going to be kicked to the curb just like all the rest of those paid for black talking heads are going to be. I can't understand how you in your right mind can make the assertions that you do about Donald Trump. I want to play this particular clip where Mr. Bell, in my opinion, embarrasses himself. Here we go.
And joining me now is Ashley Bell. He's the Senior Strategist and National Director of African American Engagement for the Republican National Committee. Ashley, good to see you. First out of the gates, just your reaction to what President Obama had to say about Donald Trump.
Now, in the interest of being informed, this man was hired within the past, I want to say, 4 or 5 months. There has been no national outreach to African Americans or Hispanic or anybody else. But because the Republicans know they're in trouble, all of a sudden they start hiring these black talking heads trying to represent when they absolutely do not represent any of the opinions and positions that the black community has. This guy is a piece of work.
Well, this is Democrats throwing out distractions again, trying to repaint Donald Trump for something he's not. You know, Donald Trump had a career long before he decided to be in politics.
But actually, didn't Donald Trump repaint himself? He had the opportunity. He wasn't even asked about it on Fox News. He said she was overweight, she was a real problem. Why not, like pretty much any other candidate that you would speak to, just say, you know what, it was 20 years ago, I shouldn't have said it, I'm done with it. Doesn't that?
That's because Donald Trump doesn't know how to apologize. He's never apologized for anything, and he's not going to apologize all the way through Election Day and thereafter. But yeah, we do know Donald Trump. We can go back to his housing discrimination lawsuits. We can go back to his attack on the Central Park Five. There's a lot of stuff in Donald Trump's history that we can go back to.
Concern people when we talk about temperament and things like judgment?
Look, he was a proud, strong businessman way before this. I can tell you, my family had family members that worked for Donald Trump in Florida.
This is what he said.
Yeah, but what about that apprentice winner who was black, who went to work for Donald Trump for a year, who came out and dogged Donald Trump out as being a racist? So yeah, you may have a positive experience, but he damn sure didn't. So if we want to balance off the two, you guys basically cancel each other out. So then we basically just have to go back and look at his history. And that is not a good history.
This week, but actually, this is what he said this week.
And when you try to reset the table and cast him with all these distractions, people aren't buying it. People know who Donald Trump is. They know for years.
Yeah, we know who Donald Trump is. He's a racist.
Thousands of people that work for him and proud to work for him, proud to associate with him, and now you're trying to recast him as something that he's not.
Yeah, all those people that were proud to work for him that he stiffed, especially contractors that he didn't pay, especially employees, and not just minority employees. When he was putting one of his buildings up, he didn't pay the laborers that were helping to put the building up, and that's documented as well.
Hillary Clinton needs to answer for her 30 years in office and trying to become president and everything she...
Okay, now this is one thing that I love. Hillary Clinton has not been in office for 30 years, and they always want to say that. She was not elected to be First Lady, her husband was. She was not elected to be First Lady of the state of Arkansas or of the United States. Again, it was her husband. So she was not in office for 30 years. If you want to talk about the time that she spent in office, elected office, or Actually, confirmed office, she spent, what, 8 years as the First Lady of Arkansas. That's not elected office, okay? And that's not an office that she had to be confirmed to. That's not even an office. It's a position. She was elected as the senator from New York, and she spent a decent amount of time there. I believe it was 10 years, but possibly 12. She was confirmed by the Senate as, to be Secretary of State. That's another 4. So if you're going to go 12 and 4, that's 16 years, not 30. But they love going back to her beginnings with her husband, Bill Clinton. So if you're going to be accurate, let's go with 16 years and not 30.
He's done, instead of trying to cast all these distractions. But I'll tell you why they're doing it, is because they're scared. Donald Trump won that debate. Donald Trump.
That is such bullshit that Donald Trump won that debate. Unless you're looking at online polls, which basically have no scientific basis. And I took at those online polls too. Places like Breitbart had Donald Trump killing Hillary Clinton in that debate. But if you look at scientific polls, Hillary Clinton basically killed Donald Trump. But of course, all you want to do is look at the polls that show your candidate in a favorable light.
Came out on fire, and I think they're worried that they're losing this race, so they bring up these old distractions.
Fair enough. I think there's a dispute over who won that debate. Donald Trump, of course, was citing unscientific online surveys that show he's won. There are new polls coming out.
There's numerous polls that show Donald Trump did well.
Let's be fair. Nothing really.
There are only 2 scientific polls, Mr. Bell, and both of them show that Hillary Clinton won that debate. Every other poll that you are attempting to cite is unscientific.
Matters until November 8th. I think we can agree about that. There was an interview with NBC News where Alicia Machado was asked if she believes that Donald Trump is racist. I want to play part of what she said and get your response to that.
Do you think he's racist?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Do you have, what's the proof that you think he's racist?
You know, I listened a few comments from him when he was my boss, but I don't want to talk about it because it's something too much rude for the black community, and I respect a lot that things.
So not just against Latinos, you're saying blacks, African Americans as well?
Yes. He don't like that people either. He's trying to make distractions. And now he's in the churches. He's ridiculous.
Ashley, you heard from Alicia Machado. You've been tasked with Republican outreach to African Americans. Give me a sense, if you can, right now. Donald Trump in recent days has in effect said there are American cities in this country, inner cities, that have gone to hell. In effect saying that young African Americans and African Americans more broadly have nothing to lose by voting for him. How does that message resonate with the African American community?
Look, the African American community, as I said, knows Donald Trump before Hillary Clinton tried to tarnish him. People in my family worked for Donald Trump when I was a kid. They grew up, went to his property in Fort Lauderdale every day, proud of saying they worked for Donald Trump way before they started trashing him. And when it comes to this debate and all the farces, look, when you talk about stop and frisk, you got too many people equating a Google search with a law degree. Stop and frisk is...
See, I love these fast-talking guys, okay? And that's all he's doing. He's trying to fast-talk somebody. The black and Hispanic communities in New York hate that particular program of stop and frisk. They hated it. And now that it's basically completely being phased out, they have nothing but love for the current mayor of New York. But you want to act like the black community and Hispanic communities, are showing much love for the stop and frisk procedures. And that just is a lie.
The legal, constitutional ability of a police officer to stop and frisk folks. They're trying to make it seem like he just made this up and it is all of a sudden this boogeyman. The reality is that in New York City, the problems with stop and frisk started with Bloomberg, not Giuliani. And I think that when we look at this in its totality...
But the bottom line is even the application, and let's be clear, there was the application of stop and frisk that was ruled unconstitutional, but even after its implementation, the murder rate has gone down dramatically. So is that the solution, given that it raised so many concerns about racial profiling, as the majority of those individuals who were questioned were individuals from minority
At least now you're having the right conversation. The conversation is the applicability and how you apply stop and frisk, and not stop and frisk as an actual constitutional right of police to do. So if you're talking about the applicability, everyone needs to be...
Let's break that down. The constitutionality of stop and frisk is based on credible suspicion that can be shown to an unbiased third party, i.e. a judge or someone of that nature, okay, that you had a reasonable suspicion that someone was going to present a crime. Not just that you looked at them and they were black or Hispanic walking up and down the street, okay? You had to have something more than that. And he's basically trying to tell us that, yes, it's constitutional to do that. Yeah, he's absolutely right, but he forgot to add the part that you have to have a reasonable suspicion, not just arbitrarily stopping and frisking people, which is what Rudy Giuliani and Bill Bratton were doing all the way through Bloomberg, and now that de Blasio has stopped it.
Held to the same standard. Bloomberg should be held to the same standard Giuliani was. It was 600,000 people.
The bottom line is white people and black people were held to different standards because African Americans and Latinos,
stark difference.
African Americans and Latinos were pulled over with much greater frequency. I think that is the concern. So does that message concern members of minority communities?
Look, everyone wants to make sure that the Constitution is applied and every American deserves equal protection under the law, and Donald Trump believed.
And that's the problem. Stop and frisk was not applied equally. 80% of the people that were stopped and frisked were minority people, blacks and Hispanics. Only 20% of the people that were stopped and frisked were white. They found a lot more contraband, if that's what you want to call it, in their stops and frisks of white people than they did with minorities. But that didn't change their direction as far as the application of the stop and frisk procedures. So yeah, everybody would like to see things of that nature handled on an even-handed, in an even-handed manner, not just in the arbitrary manner it had been handled until de Blasio stopped it.
That. When you look at the stop and frisk law, it was 600,000 stop and frisk was applied under Bloomberg, only 100,000 under Giuliani. So you have to look at some of these liberals who are out there condemning it were the ones using it. Bottom line.
Bloomberg is not a liberal, my friend. Bloomberg was a Republican, and I believe in his last years as mayor of New York, he considered himself an independent. So not a liberal by any stretch of the imagination.
Number right now, Donald Trump has said that his support among African Americans is going to shoot up like a rocket ship. The last time we polled, I think the number was at 5, maybe 7%. There it is, 81% for Hillary Clinton, 7% for Donald Trump. How does he better appeal to black voters, given the fact that there remains reticence and reluctance to come on board in spite of what you say?
It damn sure ain't hollering he's going to fix the problems by using law and order. And it damn sure is not going to endear him with the black community by saying he wants to implement stop and frisk nationwide, which he then walked back and said, Chicago.
Hey, as long as Hillary Clinton only trashes Donald Trump and won't tell black Americans why they should vote for her, we still have a chance. She's at 85%, in many polls when Barack Obama was 95. Look at the Political article. You had students at FAMU University saying, look, she doesn't tell us what she's going to do. All she does is tell us why we shouldn't vote for Trump. That's not enough for millennials.
I think we'd
That's
agree.
not enough for voters.
I think millennials and the rest of Americans would probably agree they want to hear more about what both sides want to do in the course of this campaign. Ashley, always good to see you. Thank you very much.
Good to see you.
Yeah, okay. But that's the one thing that he was right about. Hillary Clinton does need to tell millennials and everybody else, for the most part, what she's going to do for us. The trashing of Donald Trump, you know, that's easy because it's like a wealth of targets as far as trashing Trump. But she needs to put a positive spin on what her presidency wants is going to look like. We know we're never going to get that from Donald Trump. If we do, it'll be probably after he releases his tax returns for the past couple of years.